Helen Mirren has spent decades dazzling the world with elegance, charm, and a voice that practically screams royalty. But behind the red carpets and Shakespearean monologues is a woman with a life far more unpredictable than anyone expected. From noble bloodlines to shocking personal beliefs and dark experiences she rarely talks about, these are the secrets Helen Mirren kept hidden for years. By the end of this video, you'll see a side of her that Hollywood never wanted you to know. Her royal Russian roots were buried. You wouldn't guess it from her grounded public persona, but Helen Mirren was born into a family with deep, complex ties to both British royalty and Russian nobility. Her birth name was Helen Lydia Mironov, and her father descended from the Russian aristocracy before fleeing the country as a child. On her mother's side, the story couldn't be more different. Her family worked for Queen Victoria back in the 1800s, but lived a modest working-class life in East London. The clash between her royal roots and humble upbringing created a strange tension in her early life, one that her family rarely talked about. For years, these ancestral ties were brushed aside, hidden beneath a new name and an ordinary facade. But the truth was always there, quietly lingering in the background. But that was just the beginning of what her family tried to leave behind. The family hid their identity during World War II. During the chaos of World War II, Helen's family made a decision that would reshape their identity for good. Her father, originally named Vasily Mironov, quietly changed the family's last name to Mirren in order to avoid suspicion and discrimination. Being of Russian descent in wartime Britain was dangerous, and the Mironovs knew they couldn't afford to stand out. Her father took on odd jobs to survive, driving cabs by day, and even working as an ambulance driver during the Blitz. He gave up his dreams of music, trading his viola for a stable job with the Ministry of Transport, all while shielding his family from a world that was growing more hostile by the day. The name change wasn't just about paperwork, it was about survival. But while they were hiding one identity, another unexpected influence was quietly shaping Helen's world. She was raised as an anti-monarchist with a Bond girl cousin. Despite having family ties to British royalty through her mother's lineage, Helen Mirren grew up with a very different mindset, one shaped by rebellion, independence, and sharp political views. She often described her upbringing as staunchly anti-monarchist, a stance that clashed with her ancestral background. She wasn't raised in a palace, but in the quiet seaside town of Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, where she spent her days with her cousin Tanya Mallet. That name might sound familiar. Tanya would later become a Bond girl in Goldfinger, adding a glamorous twist to the family tree. The two girls were inseparable, raised on ideals that challenged the system rather than served it. For Helen, this early contrast between heritage and belief sparked a lifelong defiance of tradition. And that defiance would catch the attention of filmmakers, long before she ever became famous. She was documented before she was famous. Before Helen Mirren became a household name, a young director saw something in her that the rest of the world hadn't noticed yet. While still working with the Royal Shakespeare Company, her raw talent and unapologetic attitude caught the attention of filmmaker John Goldschmidt. He directed a documentary titled Doing Her Own Thing, a bold profile of Mirren before she ever broke into mainstream cinema. The film aired in the early 70s, showcasing her fierce independence and relentless passion for the stage. It followed her across performances, rehearsals, and international tours, from the US to North Africa, offering a rare glimpse into the making of a future legend. Even before Hollywood came calling, Helen was already rewriting the script of what it meant to be a leading lady. But fame didn't make her blend in, it only made her more unforgettable. She became a legend even in absence. By the time Helen returned to the Royal Court Theatre in the early 1980s, she wasn't just another actress, she was a force. Critics raved about her performance in The Duchess of Malfi, but what truly stunned people was the power she held even when she wasn't on stage. Colleagues described her as someone whose presence lingered in the room, commanding attention with silence alone. In The Roaring Girl, she played the daring and androgynous character of Moll Cutpurse with such intensity that she was said to radiate both light and shadow. Her performances weren't just watched, they were felt. Helen didn't need the spotlight to dominate a scene, she carried it with her, whether present or not. But behind that confidence was a private decision that defied one of Hollywood's biggest expectations. She refused to have children, and never looked back. In a world where actresses are constantly asked about motherhood, Helen Mirren stood firm in her choice, not to have children. In the early 80s, she dated Liam Neeson after meeting on the set of Excalibur, and while the relationship was passionate, it didn't last. Years later, she found lasting love with American director Taylor Hackford, whom she married in 1997. But even then, she made it clear, motherhood wasn't for her. Helen has said she simply never felt the desire to be a mother, and unlike many who hedge their answers, she never expressed regret. It was a bold stance, especially in an era when women in the public eye were expected to follow a script. But Helen never followed scripts, she rewrote them. And her beliefs didn't just stop at parenting, they extended into something even more personal. She doesn't believe in God, but believes in fairies. Helen Mirren has never been shy about challenging expectations, even when it comes to faith. In a 2011 interview, she casually revealed that she doesn't believe in God, and never really has. But what really caught people off guard was what she said next. She actually finds fairies and leprechauns more believable. It wasn't a joke, either. Helen explained that mythical beings felt more grounded to her than the structured dogmas of religion. She's called herself a devoted atheist, yet remains drawn to nature, mystery, and unseen forces that aren't found in traditional belief systems. It's an unusual blend of logic and fantasy, and it's part of what makes her so unpredictable. But her youth held even darker, more painful memories, ones she rarely brings up in public. She survived harrowing experiences in her youth. In a rare and unsettling interview from 2008, Helen Mirren opened up about a chapter of her life she had long kept private. During her student years, she admitted to being taken advantage of, more than once, while attending wild parties and experimenting with substances. She didn't share details, but the weight of her words was unmistakable. Helen said the experiences left a lasting mark on her, and they were part of the reason she eventually distanced herself from that scene. What finally pulled her away was a realization. After reading how some dealers profit from addiction, she made a decision to stop entirely. It was a quiet turning point in a life that seemed glamorous from the outside, but was far more complicated underneath. Still, as the years passed, she transformed herself into a cultural icon, in more ways than one. She was immortalized in wax and named the sexiest woman alive. In her 60s, Helen Mirren pulled off something almost no one in Hollywood could. She became both a cultural treasure and a sex symbol, all at once. At Madame Tussauds London, a wax figure of her was unveiled, placing her among Britain's most iconic figures. But it didn't stop there. Around the same time, Esquire magazine crowned her the sexiest woman alive, a title she accepted with her signature blend of grace and mischief. In one now famous photoshoot, she posed wearing nothing but a tailored coat, and stole headlines around the world. Helen never played by Hollywood's beauty rules, and that defiance only made her more magnetic as she aged. While others chased youth, she redefined power. But even that boldness didn't prepare fans for what she revealed about her favorite way to relax. She is a proud naturist, and named Naturist of the Year. Helen Mirren isn't just comfortable in her own skin, she prefers it without clothes. In interviews, she's openly described herself as a lifelong naturist, saying nothing makes her feel more free than walking around nude on a beach. She spoke about how being in nature, surrounded by others of all shapes, ages and appearances, made her feel human, equal, unfiltered, and at peace. It wasn't just a private quirk, either. In 2004, she was officially named Naturist of the Year, an honor she accepted without hesitation. For Helen, this lifestyle wasn't about shock, it was about liberation. While Hollywood scrambled to preserve illusions, she stripped them away, literally and metaphorically. And when you look at her full story, it's no wonder she's nothing like anyone else in the industry. Helen Mirren's story is a reminder that the most powerful people in Hollywood are often the ones who refuse to play by its rules. From royal bloodlines to personal rebellion, from harrowing private moments to bold, unapologetic choices, she's lived a life full of contradictions, and owned every one of them. She never chased approval, never hid her beliefs, and never let the industry define her. And maybe that's why she's lasted so long, because she's never just acted the part. She's lived it, on her own terms. These weren't just secrets, they were the building blocks of a legacy Hollywood still doesn't fully understand.